what are your takes on whether you think the Yankees will make the playoffs as of now? And if so, if you think they will be a playoff team, do you think that they have a chance at potentially taking the division from the Rays or Red Sox or Blue Jays, if any of them take it back from the Rays at some point?
I don't think they have a chance at the division. I'll do that one first because that's just out of the sights at this point. It's 6.5 away with Tampa, and you have Boston ahead of them, who the Yankees have been just unable to beat all year long. And Boston's currently beating Tampa 10-0 in the fourth inning. So, and they have guys on base. So, I mean, they're blowing out Tampa, and they're just a team who we've seen all year is able to get hot. Why that is? Because their roster, still don't think is that fantastic. But I don't know. I never considered the Red Sox a threat this year in the American League East, but certainly they are. It's going to have to be in the wild card, which means you're going to have to beat out Boston and or Oakland. And that starts next week. I mean, it starts right now, right? You got to beat the White Sox this week, and you got to take it one day at a time, yada, yada, yada. But next week you have the Red Sox at home, and I think it's for 4 because I think there's a doubleheader in there. So you need to take 3 of those, and that's where it starts because you haven't been able to beat Boston really all year long. The only one that I can think of off the top of my head, well, they beat them twice in a row. They had that 6-inning game with Garrett Cole, and then the next game they won. But other than that, I mean, it's really been a tough go for the Yankees against Boston, and that's a team that, sure, recently it's been the Rays that have beaten the Yankees, and of course we have the Astros where, you gotta hate them because they're the Astros. But it's really tough to look at the schedule and just see the red L next to the red B every time you look at the Yankees, results from 2021. And that's now the team that's ahead of them. So you got to throw out the fact that they're the Red Sox and beat them this week in your home park. It's actually only 3 games. It's 2 on Tuesday and 1 on Wednesday. So my apologies, but that's where it starts for me because, you play Oakland again, and there is some places to beat up on bad teams. In the middle of September, they got L.A., Baltimore, the Mets, Baltimore again, Cleveland, Texas. But you got 6 games left with Boston. You have to win 5. You have to.
Yeah. So in a vacuum, say the Yankees are still playing as poorly as they have throughout the season, very mediocre 500 ball, maybe a little bit over 500 ball, before they went on this hot stretch, resulting, but also coincidentally lined up after the trade deadline. This Red Sox team is just not the same Red Sox team that they have been all season. They're struggling tremendously, 2-8 in their last 10 games. Last night had a terrible loss in the 9th inning when they were tied with the Rays at 4. And then, Matt Barnes, who's their all-star closer throughout the season, has had a terrible August, is a 21 ERA, and goes in there and gives up 4 runs. So obviously it's not the same Red Sox team. So I think the Yankees actually have a very good chance of turning their luck around in this upcoming Red Sox series that they have at home. Like you said, 3 games, doubleheader on a Tuesday, and then 1 more game on a Wednesday. And that's actually going to be really huge now that the Red Sox have fallen, because the Yankees are within a game and a half of the Red Sox now, and they're playing just so much better. Since they acquired Anthony Rizzo, Joey Gallo at the trade deadline, it's just been a completely different vibe around the entire team. Obviously, you've seen how Rizzo in his first 2 games had hit home runs, a tremendous impact from the start. Unfortunately, now he is on the COVID IL list, and that can be a little scary for him because he did announce earlier this season that he wasn't going to take the vaccine, and he also is a cancer survivor, so it's a bit of a high-risk situation there, so hopefully he's all right. But aside from that, he will be out for the next 2 weeks. So we'll see how that affects the Yankees in their stride that they've really been on in the past week and a half, 2 weeks since the trade deadline. But as you said, they took as I said earlier, they took 2 or 3 at Kansas City without Rizzo. Cole's still out for the next week and a half, but it doesn't seem like they're really too knocked out by that loss. You saw Luke Voigt came back up to the majors, and he hit a home run in that crazy game on Monday, helped get that win. But I want to drop a few, while we're talking about that game, I want to drop a few stats because these are interesting. So it was a crazy game on Monday. Absolute snoozer until the seventh inning. It was 0-0. But then that's when the run started. Yankees score in the seventh inning, and then the Royals score in the seventh inning. They do that for the next 5 innings in a row. It's the first game in MLB history where both teams scored in the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th inning. And that's just great baseball. That's what the MLB wants. Extremely exciting and tremendous baseball to watch. Kansas City was the first team to erase deficits in 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th innings. And the Yankees lost Tuesday, but they won today. So they had a great series in Kansas City. That game on Monday is a real character builder. And if you're a Yankees team that, I don't necessarily know that their clubhouse has been, maybe off or at least like not as gelled as it has in the past with this young core, with how much success they've been able to have in the regular seasons prior to this one. But, a win like that can really fire you up. And when you're on this type of run, it's definitely a boost to a team that is just sniffing that wild card spot. They're only a game and a half out now. And, the Red Sox up 10-0 tonight. It's great news for me. But, I just, the way that the Red Sox have been playing, I don't see that they necessarily turn this around terribly. Now, Chris Sale does make his first start.
Yeah, I was going to say, Chris Sale's coming back. You're going to get Schwarber back. Like, their trade deadline hasn't happened yet because Kyle Schwarber's hurt. So I think that is definitely going to be a boost. Chris Sale could be over the hill. I don't think that's like a hot take necessarily, that like Chris Sale might be done. But Kyle Schwarber, am I right, hasn't swung the bat for the Red Sox yet, or is just coming back now?
Coming back, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that their trade deadline hasn't happened yet. So as great as Rizzo has been for the Yankees, we don't have a comparison for the Red Sox because Schwarber's hurt. I think that one thing the Yankees have done is beat up on those bad teams. They've taken care of Baltimore for the most part. They did lose a couple bad games to Baltimore. They took care of Texas. They beat up on Miami. They just took 2 out of 3 from Kansas City. So they have done that pretty well. And if they can do that down the stretch against the Baltimores and Texas, like I mentioned, that will help. But you mentioned COVID, man. The Yankees have got to get it together a little bit with the COVID situation. Look, the vaccinated situation, I don't want to have that argument. It's not really something I want to spend my time doing. But you have to get it together at some point because this is absurd. Like they can barely field the team anymore. And yet, like Gleyber Torres is on the injured list because he got injured playing baseball. That's one thing. But between Judge and Cole and Rizzo and Cortez and Peralta and just the list of guys who have been on that team on that COVID list, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's like at some point you just gotta like shut it down and be like, okay, it's like the buck stops here. Like the masks are going back on. Like it's over. We're going back to square one here until it's under control, and they haven't done that, and it keeps happening. And Anthony Rizzo's out for 2 weeks. Garrett Cole has missed multiple starts, and all these guys. Yeah, look, I mean, is the Field of Dreams game a little bit cheesy? Yeah, it is, of course. But all these guys have missed out on the opportunity to play in this like primetime game because like they're just getting COVID, and it's like get it together, or you're not going to make the playoffs. Like that's a very simple like 1-2. Like Luis Gil has been great in 2 starts, but he's not Garrett Cole. He hasn't really even been Garrett Cole in those 2 starts. As great as I guess he's pitched 2 shutout performances, so he's been really damn good. But you can't expect him to be that good in every single start. You're going to need Garrett Cole back. Luke Voigt, yeah, sure, he had a great home run against Kansas City, but there's a reason they traded for Anthony Rizzo because he's better than Luke Voigt. And you can go down the list. Their bullpen is already terrible. The last thing they needed coming out of that All-Star break was the 3 relievers, Loaizaga, Peralta, and Cortez, I think it was, who hit the COVID list. That was the last thing they needed at that time. Am I a little bit salty about it because I was a mile from the stadium when they canceled that first game against the Red Sox? Yes, that's part of the reason I'm salty about it. But it's just really upsetting because it's like this was a team, they were one of the first teams in April, May, whenever it was, that hit the 85% mark. So the 85% mark is you get the masks off, you get some travel restrictions lifted, you don't have to get tested as often, whatever. They were one of the first teams that hit that. And now they are the team who every single day, they just had another one today, add somebody to the COVID list. And it's like at some point, some Cashman, Steinbrenner, Boone has to step in. It's like, we're stopping this crap like now, because it's out of control and it's taking them out of a spot. Like we can remember the 2019 Yankees, who had a gazillion injuries and still went through it, went all the way to the ALCS. That's great. That might not happen again. And it's out of control at this point, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, injuries, as much as you can't really control them, there's like maybe a little bit, like you could be a little bit less reckless, but it's baseball. It's not a contact sport. It's not easy to control injuries, but it is a lot easier to control what you do when it comes to the necessary precautions in order to keep your guys off the IL. It's something that, it really is like it's something that maybe requires a little more leadership on the front of the Yankees, the teammates, and the people, in the front office, the manager, the GM. We really haven't seen these types of outbreaks really with any other team. It's always kind of been the Yankees. Just they're losing a lot of people to it, and it's really it's going to affect their team. It has affected the team, and maybe it's why we haven't seen such a strong surge from them all season. I'm not going to say that it is, because they've also been playing really poorly. But, if you can control something like that, you should try your best to. And that's definitely it's an Achilles heel for the Yankees right now.